Welcome, everybody, to Bail Agents of Change. I'm your host, Scott Jones, with One Brother, One Sister, and Sober Life Studios, bringing you this program. I want to thank you for joining us and let you know that this show will be talking to everybody to do with bail, different programs going on, different associations, and certainly the good work that they're doing throughout the United States in helping people, and even explain some of the basics that people might not understand about the bail system. And how important it really is and how it works. We'll be doing that. Before we start, though, if you just take a moment and hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to share this with your friends. It's really important that you do, and leave comments, because we'll go back and read the comments because you're watching a recording. But if you leave a comment, then we can certainly go back, look at it, and answer your questions on future shows. Also want to tell you that this is the holiday season, so please spend time with your family, be safe out there, and let's drop all the badness that we've had over the years with the politics and this and that. Let's just drop all that. Let's come together as a United States and be the best that we can be. And the only way to do that is by treating your brother, your sister, your neighbor, your communities, and those with opposing views, treating them with decency, respect, and dignity. So we ask that you do that. All right, so now we've got a great guest today. This is somebody we've had on other shows, but this is first time coming on the Bail Agents of Change podcast. Somebody that I've known for probably 6 or 7 years, and who's really, really one of these guys that really has this pulse on what's going on in the bail industry. This is the president of the Professional Bail Agents of the United States and a board member of the Kansas Bail Agents Association, not to mention running his own business and doing all those things. This is David Stuckman. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
How are you, my friend?
Good. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
It is absolutely a pleasure. We always have great talks. I know you and Karen, my, One Brother, One Sister, my business partner, you guys get along famously and you do a lot of stuff together. And we'll be talking about some of those things. But you're up in Kansas right now. And, I'm down in Florida. If you ever get down this way, we got to do some lunch or something,
Okay.
Do you ever come down on vacation in Florida or no?
No, but I've been down there several times. I will next time I'm in your neck of the woods. I'm going to.
I imagine you're probably one of those guys who don't take many vacations anyway. You're so busy with so many things that you do.
Yeah.
So tell me, first of all, you are the president and have been involved for many years with the Professional Bail Agents Association of the United States. Tell me about what that organization is.
Well, it's an organization of professional bondsmen around the United States and posting bond, but trying to better our profession as a whole. And, people think of bondsmen as, the bottom feeders, but really we're here to help people. And we have 2 yearly conventions, and we get together and we talk about how we can better the profession and do our jobs better. Truthfully, that's the nuts and bolts of what we do. Education is mainly based on what PBUS does. Try to get the new agents coming into our profession and get them some good networking and some good information on how to do their profession better. That's about the nuts and bolts of that.
I did notice that there is quite a generational thing going on. When you go to the conventions, you see a lot of guys who've been in the business forever, and then you see a lot of these young guns coming in, and that's great. And passing on that information is so important, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I was at a convention, a state convention in California, in San Diego, where they had the younger generation of bondsmen. Most of them were second generation bondsmen. Their moms and dads were in the profession. It was just really, really interesting to hear their points of view and how they see marketing and how they help people and see it's a different light. And it was really, really, it was a great panel. I've thought about having a panel on our PBUS convention of how this younger generation is going to come to be, because it's a new dawn for us, especially with the new administration of coming in with our new president and stuff. We're hoping good things will happen for us.
Well, you've been in the bond industry for how long, David?
40 some years. 40. You're going to get me to counting here. 44 years.
44 years. Now, when you first came in, how did that come about for you?
Well, I was an insurance agent, and I just got tired of selling insurance. Truthfully, I was a single parent, and they said, "Well, we need an investigator to do an investigation." So I did the investigation, which turned out to be for a bondsman who he did private investigations too. From that, he hired me after that little gig to be a bounty hunter, and I was a bounty hunter. His name was Walt Gatchy for 4 or 5 years, and then I said, I think I want to be a bondsman. I'm tired of chasing people, and that's how I got into the bail bond business.
Wow. So 44 years ago, it had to look a lot different than it does today.
Oh, yeah.
Just the simple things, cell phones, internet, doing a lot of work online, even your advertising,
Tremendous change. Tremendous. When I first started, I could tell you where every payphone was in Manhattan, in northeastern Kansas. I always had a pocket full of dimes because that's what it cost to call. And I had 2 pagers. One was digital and one was voice. And the reason is some had coverage, some didn't, and depending where I was. So I carried 2 pagers. And I remember getting my very first cell phone, big old bulky. It was a bag phone. And
right.
And I had to carry that bag phone around. And I still didn't like talking to too many people because it was sometimes $1, but usually 50 cents a minute to talk. So you talked quickly, you didn't gab, that's for sure. You got the information, and then you took care of business. But yeah, those days are gone.
But for the better in some ways. I mean, I feel like we've lost some skill sometimes because of the electronic age and all the other stuff. We lost some of our own having to be creative and things like that. But it's so nice to have instant information now. Does that had to help the industry being able to get photos and documents instantly, as opposed to waiting and having to go travel to get everything?
Oh, yes. It has really helped our profession. Everybody takes a picture of the defendant right there on their cell phone, so it's handily on their cell phone when they bond them out. You can take picture of documents. You can take picture of, like when you're chasing a guy, a picture of a footprint, so if he stepped in the mud. Make sure you're tracking the right person. Just all kinds of weird things you can do with your cell phone. You can Google search, things. Facebook really helps us. You've got it at your hands. You can find out where his friends are, or Twitter, just easy things to track people with. It makes it easier. Plus, it's easier to monitor them with too. They can call from their cell phone, and we can ping their phone if we need to know where they are. If they say they're there, we can just ping the phone and find out. We don't ping it. Ping is not a good word, but most phone apps have Find Me.
Right.
The pinging is what the police do, and that's where they literally can find any phone. We legally cannot do that.
Right. That's an invasion for sure. But so many good things. How did are these associations like the PBUS, the Professional Bail? Is that like a big purpose for that? Is to keep people up to date with what's going on, so that they don't fall behind?
Yes. Yeah, because we bring, we also, PBUS also has I don't want to say it's a subdivision, but we have what we call the Council of Presidents. And that meets once a month. And every president of every state association around the United States gets on the phone, and they tell what's going on in their state every month. So you're up to breast of what's going on in California, Montana, North Dakota, and things are happening so quickly anymore. Sometimes I wish we had it every 2 weeks, because we had a lot of activity in the last month because of the election, and there was some lame duck issues, and everybody's trying to pass their bills before the new president comes in, and it's pretty crazy right now.
I'm sure it is. I don't want to get too far into politics only because, but
yeah.
Are you seeing coming forward into 2025 with the new administration. Is that a bonus for the bail industry or a subtraction for them?
We're very optimistic. Every bail bondsman out there should be very optimistic. We were very, very interested in how this election came out, because you had one candidate that was for getting rid of bail and getting rid of cash bail and everything, and the other candidate was, we need bail, we need accountability, and we need to keep track of what's going on and not be so soft on crime.
Absolutely. The people who are against it, they love to toss the word around bail reform, which is I think it's a term used to confuse people, because what they're talking about is bail elimination. They're not talking about reform. If somebody wanted to actually come in and say, we need to make a few changes, that's one thing. But to say we need to get rid of it, that's elimination, and that won't work. And it's been proven not to work before.
That is true.
But although there's always ways to improve every industry as well. So that's part of what you guys do. Do you keep representation on top of what laws are coming out and what's going on nationally and in the states?
We do. We have a weekly newsletter that's called Multi-Briefs, and it goes out to all the bondsmen. Actually, anybody can subscribe to it. But it tells all the updates of the new laws and articles about the new laws. There's obviously difference of opinions, and we post good and bad. If someone's saying bad about bail bondsmen, we want our bail agents to know this is what's been said about you, so you're prepared in case you're approached by someone and said, did you see this horrible situation, this and that? Yes, I did. And then you have the opportunity to be prepared to rebuttal the article, for lack of better words.
Absolutely. You suffer the same issues as first responders, especially police, that where you can have 2 million police officers out there in any single day doing their jobs, and one guy does something wrong, and that's the only focus that's given. And we've seen this happen with the bail industry too. You got thousands and thousands of good people out there doing good work and helping people, helping their clients, helping their families, helping the courts, and doing a lot of great things. One person does something wrong, that's what gets all the attention. Has that been a problem? Has been, and we have to be really careful. We've without talking about it, bringing attention to it. There's been some in the last month. We've had some articles about bail agents that have done horrible things. And the best approach for me that I tell everybody, just don't talk about it. It'll die. Yeah. The news will die within a week. You keep talking about it and putting it on Facebook and stuff like that. You keep it alive. It's kind of like the hook. The person's getting ready to walk off the stage, and you talk about it and say, well, we really weren't responsible for that. It's just like a hook. You just brought them back into everybody's researching. Well, what are they talking about? So that's why. Yeah. Well, somebody in your industry, that's got to be frustrating that you don't get enough attention for all the good work. Is there anything that we can do to bring that good work forward? Well, it's like this podcast. I have another podcast called Bail in the Midwest, where we interview politicians and judges and county attorneys and activists. And this is going to be, I think this is going to be a great podcast. One of the things, obviously, that the bail bondsman partnered up with One Brother, One Sister is to help people get treatment if they need it and be interventionist. Karen's doing a great job. We're going to go around and have not continuing education. We're going to get people nationally certified with SANSA, and to where they can be interventionists. And when the family says, we need to get this guy into treatment, or this girl, this individual into treatment, we've been trying to do that. As bondsmen, we can help them with that, and then notify the courts and tell them, hey, we checked this guy into treatment. He's going to not be in court for a couple of months or whatever. And we'll give you a weekly progress report, and we'll let you know when he graduates from the program, and we'll get him back into the system. And I think it's a great way to let people know that bondsmen really care about the people we bond out. And it improves the community. Yes. It reduces recidivism. It does a lot of things that I believe that your industry needs more credit for, is that when you work with them, every bondsman I've talked to, it's always been there's a relationship you build with the client. Now, you don't become their social worker or their psychiatrist, but you do become an advocate for them in a lot of ways. It's not just, let me take your money and then I'll see you again when it's time for court. You do a lot more than that, don't you?
That is. Yes, we do. We really do. There are too many numerous things to talk about, and some of the things we want to brag about, we don't do it because well, I don't do it because it looks braggadocious, but I am really happy when people call me and say, thank you so much. One of my favorite stories is when mom and dad, and the jail will be the first to call me up and says, hey, you really need to talk to this kid. He's young and this and that. And the mom and dad will come and talk to me and say, well, I need you both there. And I prepare the mother. Mother, when I'm done with this, you're going to be crying your eyes out. And Dad, you probably will be too. And we'll see how far I get to this guy. And I usually tell him, son, you're in the fork of the road. And you're going to either go this way or that way. And I don't believe you're going to make it. I think you're going to go to prison. You just got a bad attitude. Mom starts crying. And I said, you see your mom there? She's crying. She loves you very much. But right now, she's not very proud of you. And she is scared for you. Everybody's scared for you. And if the individual starts crying or I can see him breaking down, I don't quit. I just pound them hard to where they really, really do think they have screwed up. And then I end with this note. I say, I'll bet you in 10 years, you're back in jail again. If you're not back in jail in 10 years, I will buy you the biggest steak dinner in Manhattan, Kansas, or whatever town I'm in. And I have had several through the year phone calls of people says, you owe me a steak dinner. And I said, all right, you just bring me that ticket when you go out and eat. Hopefully you take your mom and dad, you go out and have the best meal you want and send me the ticket and I'll reimburse you. I have never paid for that meal. You know who paid for that meal? Mom or dad.
Yeah.
They pay that and they call me and tell me, no, he'll send you the bill, but we'll pay that tab. And
wow.
It's really,
well, if you had to, it would have been money well spent, I think.
Yes. And it does. And it's a good speech. It's called the good old boy speech or the bad boy speech. Everybody names it differently when I hear about it, but I knew as soon as they call and says he needs one of those speeches. Or she. And it's usually, don't get me wrong, it's 95% of the time, it's a guy that thinks he's really tough. And I tell him, you're just a puny little guy. You won't make it in prison. You're going to be somebody's girl. And then I make fun of him and tell him, you're going to be talking with a higher pitched boy. Hi, Mr. Stuckman. When you get out of there, just try to scare him to death. And that's, Scared Straight is a great program that you see on TV everywhere.
Right.
And that's kind of where I got the idea.
Well, especially the young men, they get this hubris, this machoism that I could tear up jail and I could do all these things. And usually people who say that haven't been there yet.
That's right.
And then they find out. But this is kind of that stopgap where they have an opportunity and developing more and more programs. The program you were talking about with Karen that we're going to be highlighting in a future show, not far down the road. We're going to highlight the Beyond Bars program, where we're talking about getting people into treatment for both addictions and mental health and making sure they get what they need. But all of these things are really just a daily activity for you guys. It's not like I see one special kid and I help him out. You see an opportunity to help everybody in some way or another, don't you?
Yeah. Yes, we do. And it's a daily activity. I'll get phone calls all the time. They'll be scared to death, and saying, oh my God, what do I do now? And then of course I hear them being scared, but I don't know the facts. I says, well, first thing you better do is call your attorney or call your probation officer. Lots of times they're calling me, they're on probation. They're afraid they're going to be revoked off probation and they're preparing, I may need your service and this and that. And activity like that. But more importantly, it says, what do I do now? What can I do to prove to the judge I've turned my, and I said, well, dress up, dress like you're going to church. Don't dress like a bum, be one of the, show him that you are, have self-esteem and things like that. Just little things like that you got to explain to them. And they don't think about it. And then you got to explain to them, that guy sits higher than everybody else in the courtroom for a purpose. Think of him like you're talking to God, because really at that moment, he is God in that room.
In that room, absolutely.
Yeah, in that room. So you need to really be respectful. I mean, I had one person that just had a bad attitude, and he told the judge he didn't like what he did, and he didn't like the sentence he got, whatever. And he said, if you take off that skirt, I'll come up there and teach you a lesson or something. I thought, well, how many days are you doing in jail? And he said, well, I didn't even get sentenced. I'm already in jail for 90 days. And I said, yeah, it's called contempt of court. Threatening a judge is not the smartest thing, and things like that. And when they do boneheads like that, they were just aggravated because they got sentenced. And I said, it'll probably be the best 90 days you ever do. And he just not, that didn't happen too long ago. I'm waiting for him to get out of jail because I told him he can't even use a phone. So it's going to educate that guy real quick. You just aren't rude to the court system.
Yeah, I think you need to re-examine yourself if you cannot control yourself for 25 minutes in front of a judge. If you can't control yourself for that period of time, you really need some extra help there. Or a lesson, as you say, a lesson in how to be respectful. Let's get rid of some of the there's a lot of stereotypes and a lot of bad wrong ideas about the bail industry. Let's get rid of those. First of all, everyone you deal with is not a hardened murdering bank robber. It's not these. A lot of the people you deal with are just people who made bad decisions and got in trouble for the one or two times just out of. Isn't that true? I mean, it's not all these big. You're not always chasing down these murderers and thugs. No, it's everyday. It's everyday people that you're dealing with a lot of the time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. A lot of times alcohol was involved or drugs was involved, and their mind is not straight, and they do what I call bonehead mistakes. They just it's kind of like, what were you thinking? Well, I wasn't thinking. I don't even remember. Well, they don't want to remember probably, but when they did it, they probably just made a horrible mistake and they're regretting it. And that's what you have to find. How remorseful are you? Or if we bond you out, are you going to follow these conditions? Are you going to do this and that? I mean, I've had bonds where the mom and dad want him to go to church. Well, we'll make that a condition. He can go to church with you, but don't make it as a punishment because he needs your support, mom and dad, to emotional support, because I'm not there every day with him, and tell him you're there to support him. If I need to be the bad guy, every once in a while I need to be the bad guy. They call him this, you really need to talk to him. I don't have a problem with that at all. Get him on the phone and I'll talk to him. Says, let me tell you what, I'll throw your butt back in jail if you don't follow the rules and straighten up, because this is the opportunity for you to show the judge that you really are remorseful. If you're not remorseful, why do we bond you out of jail? And speeches like that really, and I call them speeches because if I can do it well enough, I'm a kind of a person I can talk to you one-on-one. I'm not a great speaker, but if I can talk to a person one-on-one, usually I can get through to them and explain to them. And sometimes it's, oh man, come on, buddy, or it's very informative. Like I'm talking to my 6-year-old child. It depends on the personality that you're talking to. But usually I can find that, and every bondsman can do this. It's not David Stuckman's secret. Every bondsman can do this if they're really good at their job, learn how to talk to the person and get through to them. If we get that accomplished, then the bondsman has really done something very successful. I mean, our goal is to do that.
So obviously, let's debunk that they're not all hardened criminals, that there are a lot of people who just need help. One of the other things, and you just mentioned it, they think that most of your job is running after people and jumping off roofs and going after people and doing all that, which is.
No, you froze. No, I'm not. I'm going to keep talking then. No, it's not. As a bondsman, very seldom do we chase people because we usually have the leverage. Are you back with me now?
Yes, we're here.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of times, I'd say 85% of the time, the bondsman, it's doing that work. When we have to go after people, we really don't, because we call mom and dad. And if mom and dad put up their house as collateral, everybody's willing to help us find them, because mom and dad does not want to lose their house, and neither does brother, sister, aunt, uncle, or the neighbor down the street. So everybody will help us find him. We canvass the area. Somebody will figure out where he is. And then it's just a matter of saddling up or whatever and getting your gear on and going and hitting the house and making the arrest. When you see the movies, the TV shows and stuff, it's not really like that. It's just hype. when you think of bondsmen, we're never in the light of being a good bondsman. Even in, I can't remember the one show that, it was a good show. I shouldn't have brought that up. Now I got to think about it. Had Pam Grier in it. And she was,
Foxy Brown.
Yeah.
The movie.
Those are good. Those are good examples of shows that I'm trying to say that, it's just not that ugly of a profession. I really enjoy helping people. And when I bond somebody out and I see that I've really turned the light on in their head and they say, okay, I'm going to fix myself. And then, okay. And then they'll call up and says, I did really good. I've been off drugs. I'm this and that, but I've kind of fell off the wagon here. I went out and got drunk last night or whatever, and I need help. Can you find me help? And mom and dad are mad at me because I did that. And I said, well, okay, you fell off the wagon. Let's get back on it and let's see what we can do and try to get him into a treatment or Alcohol Anonymous or whatever.
Yeah. So sounds to me like your number one skill, is communication, listening and talking and connecting. That's your number one skill to make you successful in this business. So that you can help the people and what they're doing, and that's important. One of the other fallacies that people have is that they always hear these numbers from court. He's out on a $20,000 bail, he's out on a $500,000 bond, and they think that someone like you would walk in and you would get paid $500,000 or $20,000 and that's all your money. That's not how the bond industry works. The numbers that they're hearing is not the numbers that actually make the motions, and you're not. I've seen other businesses make a lot more money. Let's just say it that way. You guys are not pocketing a ton of money because you got so many responsibilities, and they only pay a portion of what that number you hear anyway, right?
Yeah, traditionally it's 10%. And out of that, you got to pay marketing, you got to pay expenses, phones, rent, and things like that. And then when the person doesn't show up, you got to pay the forfeiture. You got to pay that. If it was a $10,000 bond, they paid $1,000. Now you got to pay $10,000 and you're out $9,000. So you got to make sure they make court. And like I said, or you'll be out of business. And a lot of people think that, and they get in, and then all of a sudden they got to start paying these forfeitures. And those are the agents that they need to go to the professional bail agents conventions and network and learn how to underwrite. It's called underwrite their bond and make sure they've got a good risk. There's a lot of risks out there. My favorite story is when Junior cannot get out of jail, or they say so-and-so could not get out of jail on a $500 bond or whatever it is. Well, the reason he couldn't get out of jail is because his family usually says, we don't want him out of jail. He has been in so much trouble. He just needs to sit there. And when I hear that, mom, and the very last person that you have. Can you hear me now?
All right, got you now. I could cut that little piece out real quick before we air it.
All right.
So you were saying that the parents don't want them out.
Oh, yes. Yeah. When that happens, they always say, well, when they say the bail reform people will say, well, he couldn't afford to get out. Well, he's not the one that really puts up the money. If he has the money, then that's fine. But he still needs a cosigner, somebody that knows him, because I don't know the individual. I've got the $1,000 for my $10,000 bond. Just come and get me out. I got it in cash right here. Well, that's good. But I need somebody that knows you, that assures me that you're going to go to court. Mom, dad, brother, and sister. When he says, well, don't call my mom and dad, they're mad at me. Well, there's probably a good reason why they're mad at you. And probably you might want to call another bondsman, not me. I'm not going to help you unless I can talk to a family friend. And usually it's 2 or 3 friends. One friend turns into another, because if I call mom, I said, well, what's his brother and sister think, this and that? And I'll get other names to talk to. I could be talking to his accomplice and says she's the mother. So we try to research it. And that's the beauty of Facebook. Back to the Facebook. I can look him up on Facebook and see who all of his friends are. And I can contact one of those, PM him and say, hey, so-and-so's in jail. He wanted me to contact you. Because they'll always say, I don't know their number. I don't know their phone numbers. Well, I'll find them. I have ways of finding out. And that is one thing about cell phones that's hard, is you can't just go to the phone directory and pick up call information. I need the phone number of so-and-so, because cell phones don't have that. We don't have that capability of getting the cell phones, except through deep investigations, which cost money, and you can't really afford to do that on every person you're trying to bond out.
For all you kids out there, there was something we used to use called a phone book.
Yes.
I imagine that any kids out there, you probably never even seen one. You could actually look in a book for somebody's name, address, and phone number.
Or cross directories, find out who their neighbors were.
Yeah.
Now you can still do it online. And that's what the funny thing of it is, with that panel, that was one of the questions. I asked that question. I said, do any of you use the phone book? One gal who's about 21 years old, mom was a very well-known bondsman. And she says, I've never seen a phone book. And she was in LA. That's where she was, somewhere in LA, one of the cities. She says, but, I can get any number, but I've never seen a phone book. I said, I remember sitting on it when I was a little kid at the kitchen table. And she said,
oh my goodness.
No. And that's where they was said, with marketing, we don't suggest you do the phone books anymore for marketing. And
no.
We have to here, but yeah.
Yeah. So, we mentioned a moment ago about the money, and you're saying, like, somebody's got a $10,000 bond, maybe they got to pay you $1,000. Out of that $1,000, now you got to pay a surety, you got to pay bills, you got to pay other things you got to pay. So now you're putting maybe $500 in your pocket in your business.
Yeah.
But you're betting that $500 against $10,000, because if they run, they take off, they do something, you can end up having to pay $10,000. That's a gamble every time.
Every day.
What is the skill in trying to decide which?
Well, not only that, even if you do find them, you had expenses. You had travel expenses, motels, and usually you're paying somebody to give you the information. We do pay rewards,
right?
And and canvassing the area, and it's not a one-man job. It's, first of all, I don't do it. I have bounty hunters, and that right there is the 10%. That's usually the fee. A bounty hunter is going to charge me to go get him. So I made no money at all. So that's why you want as few of those as possible.
Yeah, you're just trying to protect not losing money anymore. Yeah. It's no longer about, I'm not going to make anything, but I just can't lose all of that.
Yeah. Usually if they're locally, we can find them. And lots of times we'll just say, look, you screwed up. We'll get back on the bond. I'll go to the judge and tell them, look, you just, sometimes they oversleep, they forget. Oh, my attorney said I didn't have to be there or whatever. We can straighten that out. But when you're really talking about the hard skips, they've left the state. Now we've got an expense, because now we got to go to that state and make the arrest, plus the cost of finding that individual. And now, don't get me wrong. Some people do have to leave the state, because when he got arrested, he may have lost his job, and now he's trying to find another job. And he goes somewhere else to get the job. And he's supposed to tell us when he gets a new job, but sometimes they don't do that. And then he gets there, when he interviewed for the job, he doesn't tell the new employer, well, I got court on this date, for fear that he won't get hired. So then he gets hired, and then he has the fear of, I can't ask off to tell him I got to go to court because I'll probably get fired.
Yeah.
So he doesn't do it. And then we got to go and get him. And lots of times I'll talk to the employer and I said, look, you just screwed up. We'll get him there. He'll probably bond back out. Hopefully he keeps his job. Well, yeah, he's a good employee. Wish he would have told me. Every employer says, I wish he would have just told me. But
yeah. That's one of the problems you have, is you got a lot of people that you help are operating out of fear.
Yes.
Shame sometimes as well. They're ashamed of what they did, or ashamed they got arrested. But there's a lot of fear about, I still got to go to court. I still got all this stuff hanging over my head. I don't know what's going to happen. Is this where you're kind of, you as a life coach come in and try to coach them along through that fear?
Yes, you do. You definitely
so that his fear doesn't make them do something stupid like run.
lots of times I'll show up in court with them. And when I show up in court with them, I'll say, now, look, I'm not here to arrest you. I'm here to help you. I'm going to stand right here beside you and help you understand. Because when that judge reads off all the things he's been charged of, and they list every possible thing, and the county attorney says, yeah, this is punishable by this, the guy's thinking, oh, my Lord, I'm going to go to prison for a year or whatever. And I says, no, you won't. You need to make sure that the court understands your position. You get a good attorney and try to get a diversion or get probation. They don't really want to. Nobody goes to prison the first time, unless it's a capital crime like murder. Right. Nobody goes to prison the first time. They usually get a pretty good chance of give them a diversion, give them probation. They might have to do a couple days in jail and prove to the court that they're going to fix their ways. But that first timer is the one that we always try to correct. We don't want to see him back in jail again. If the guy's been there 4 or 5 times, he already knows the system. There's no sense of coming and telling him because he already knows it all. And then all I got to do there is make sure mom and dad make sure that he makes court because he may be going. And especially when you bond him out for probation violation. That's one of the scariest ones. The scariest bond to write anymore, which the bail bond profession is learning, is driving while suspended. Because that person knows when he goes back to jail, the judge is going to put him in jail because the reason he was driving on suspended is maybe he didn't have insurance, maybe he didn't finish out whatever, and he just knows he's going to go to jail and do some time. So those are lots of times failure to appears that we have to keep an eye on. That's one of the highest fail to appear charges, people that get charged with that, which surprises me, but it's true. It is. It's statistically true.
Now, in your experience, and this is just your experience and nothing professional here, but if people bond out, if they do the right things, like you said, some people go back to church with their parents, some people, they get a job, but they report to you, then they report to court on time and they do all of that. Does the judge look upon those things, in your opinion, that they did everything they were supposed to do? Does that have any weight when you're standing in front of a judge?
Yes, it does. It does. The funny part is I'm from a small town. Well, not small. It's Manhattan, Kansas. But in some of these small towns, the judge will call me and says, well, how's he been doing while he's on bail? And now in the big cities, they don't do that. They don't have the time. But when you've got those small town judges in the rural areas, that really carries a lot of weight. That's where you really are happy to be a bondsman. Well, judge, he's done everything I've told him to do, and these are the conditions I've got. And he said, yeah, I saw it on the bond. And did he follow all those conditions? Yes, he did. And then I know it has weight. And he's, or he'll do this. The judge will say, I tell you what, I want a condition on this bond. I don't want him to go be around certain people, whatever it is. Make that a condition. I don't want to do it from the bench. I want you to do it as a bondsman. And I want to make sure that he does not run around with the people he was running around with. Now, granted, we probably already addressed that issue, and I probably said, no, I told him not to, but I will make sure that happens. And he says, because if one of my court service people sees him with that person, I've instructed them to call you. And I go, well, okay, we'll address that issue. And I haven't had any problems with it, but I've had those phone calls. So the court system really wants to help the person. They really do want to make sure they want to try to get rid of recidivism down as minimal as possible. Nobody likes seeing the same person over and over. Nothing worse than a judge knowing the defendant by his first name when he walks in the courtroom.
Yeah, it's like Norm walking into Cheers. Everybody, hey, Norm. You don't want that when you walk into a court.
No.
The relationship you have with the courts and with the local authorities, police and so on, that's very important to be successful in the bond industry, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Yes, it's everything. All you have is your reputation as a bondsman with the court and with the police and with the county attorneys. And, and I can't emphasize that enough. Don't stretch the truth with a judge or a county attorney. Just be matter-of-factly. I always tell great stories and stuff, but when I'm in the courtroom, I will be very distinct and very on point. Judge, I'm here. I have not seen this person in 3 weeks or whatever. Just boom, just let it be known. Then the judge says, well, you better go get him because I'm going to forfeit your bond. I don't elaborate and try to make it sound like, well, Judge, I was just talking to him and this and that. Nope,
Yeah.
just be very on point. Nope, I haven't seen him, and we'll find him. You know,
That is so important, and again, that's why getting together with other people in the industry and using PBUS and other things like that, and developing programs like Beyond Bars,
yes.
it's so important because you want to really be seen as an asset, not just to the court but to the community, and that's really kind of the direction we're heading in now.
That is our goal. Yes.
Yeah, and so that people see you as really a community service rather than an arm of the court, if you will. So that we see that, and we love your direction you're heading in with that, David.
Yeah.
We love your vision, and what kind of response are you getting from people when you start talking about these things and start thinking about new ideas? Are people ready for new ideas and to try?
Yes, they are. I mean, we've been around to a different state association talking about it. We've got people excited about we're talking about the classes now for SANSA for the interventionists. Everybody's excited. I can't get it out enough to get people to do it. I'm really excited about it. The thing of it is, when we were talking, it brought up I just got off the phone before I took this pod class about a guy, and he called and he says, which promoted the question, I need to really figure out how I can prove to the court what I'm doing. I says, well, here's my philosophy. You gotta have a plan. And it says, yeah, I got a plan. Okay. Do you have a deadline of things you're going to get accomplished? Because that's just intention. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll have all this stuff done by a certain day. Now you got a goal. And I says, have you got a drawn up plan of how you're going to get to that goal? And he says, yeah. And I said, that's what you need. If you just think, well, Judge, I've got this, it's intention. I got this and a goal, and I got a deadline on this. I'll have it done by then. That's a goal. But now you really need to have a plan. And you need to tell me how you're planning on getting all this stuff. When are you going to meet with these people and do this and that? And then, and he really said, well, I never thought of it like that. And I said, okay, well, that's the first goal that you got to do. Now you show the judge that and you tell him, I'm going to have this done by this time, or your attorney. He actually had talked to his attorney, and he says, this is my goal. I'm going to get this done, and I'm going to have it done by this time. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to meet with he was meeting with his pastor twice a week. My pastor is going to help me. Okay. I think you're on track. Those are the things that you got to get to them. They don't think, these guys that do things, they just kind of fly by the night people, and you got to train them. As far as now us having this, I think it's a great goal right now. We've got a deadline. Me and Karen have set a deadline, and we're going to have a meeting here in a week or so with all our advisory people, directors and everything. And then I think we're on track to getting this accomplished, and I'm excited to hopefully by the end of the year, we're up and running and training classes, and I'll be back seeing you in a couple of months about how successful we are. That
is awesome. We will definitely look forward to that talk. And we've come towards the end of the show now. Holidays are coming up. We got Thanksgiving just around the corner, Christmas coming, New Year's Eve coming, and everything. We also see a lot of people making bad decisions during these times of the year. Any message you want to send to people out there?
Oh, okay.
Just as a member of the community, what do you want to
say? Just enjoy the holidays, enjoy your family. Family is always important, just enjoy that. Try to get with everybody and enjoy it. You don't have to go out and celebrate with alcohol and drugs. Nothing. I'm an old kind of guy. I like to play cards. Just get a card game together with your family, and the card game conversation comes up, and you'll remember that the best. That's what I recommend, is get a card game together or something to where they can all socialize. Turn off the TV, turn off the cell phones, and just get back with your family, and because your family could be gone at any given moment. Any member could be. So enjoy that. The holidays are meant for that. That's the whole point. Yeah, I love that. That'd be my message, I guess.
I love that. And again, everyone out there, I know there's been a lot of contention over elections. There's been a lot of a concern about inflation. There's so many things going on. The best way to conquer all of these issues is by coming together as people,
Right.
sharing ideas, allowing different ideas to come in, because that's how you get new ideas, is by allowing different opinions to come in. Don't shoot people down for their opinions. And more importantly, David just said it beautifully, spend time with your family, because, you know, at the end of the day, that is really what it's all about. If because if you don't have that, it's a tough road on your own. You need your family. Spend time with them. Enjoy it. David, I look forward to seeing you. You and I will be together in Vegas.
Yeah.
But we'll get together and we'll talk more about our other projects coming up. And I want to thank you so much for taking your time today, my friend.
Thank you. I really enjoyed being here.
All right. So right here at Bail Agents of Change podcast, brought to you by One Brother, One Sister. One Brother, One Sister, providing training and education in areas of mental health, trauma, and especially addiction and alcoholism. We do a lot of work that is through our nonprofit to help people. If you want to help us out, you go to onebrother1sister.com, make a donation. Any donation would help. And also, Sober Life Studios, always bringing you great podcasting and always on positive topics of change, of helping people, and of success. For David Stuckman from PBUS, I'm Scott Jones, thanking you for joining us, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.